The thing that drew me to answering legal was that you use human beings.
Speaking to a voicemail, to an IVR or an AI thing is not as comforting as talking to a real person when you're anxious.
You guys are offering like a lot of great services now with the Spanish speakers.
The bilingual answering and all of that is part of sort of our mission to make sure that if someone needs legal help, they can get it. Hey everyone, my name is Tony Prieto. I'm the host of the Inside Answering Legal podcast. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where we provide a behind-the-scenes look at all things answering legal, our 24/7 virtual receptionist service and customer experience. Now, today on the show, we're excited to welcome another attorney who is currently using Answering Legal. We're very proud to work with this lawyer and his company as he is engaged in some very important work. Through his company, Lowry Veterans Law, he represents veterans and their dependents in VA compensation cases. We're thrilled he could give us some time today to share his experience working with Answering Legal. Timothy R. Franklin joins me now. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Super happy to have you. But before we dive into your relationship with Answering Legal, can you tell us a little bit about you, your practice, and the work you do?
Yeah, well, I'm Timothy Franklin. I have been practicing in the area of veterans compensation law probably for almost 15 years now. I used to only appeal veterans cases at the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims in Washington, D.C. And then somewhere along the line, what we call the administrative practice opened up. And now I practice at the Board of Veterans Appeals and at the local regional office level, which we call VA administrative claims, and just basically do everything for veterans that involves compensation.
If I may ask, what made you choose VA law?
Well, I'm not a veteran myself. A lot of veterans are drawn to this area, but a lot of non-veterans are as well. I have a pretty rich background with family members and such that have been in the military. Like if you try to get a hold of my firm and it's a general inquiry, instead of using like hello at Lowry Veterans Law or info, mine is Bud, B-U-D. And that's my grandpa Bud, whose name was Willard. He was a World War II veteran and died from emphysema, probably from painting all the warships and stuff like that. And I have some pictures of him on my website. I was drawn to veterans law, not for any sort of reason that I was trying to save the world or anything. Actually, when I graduated law school in 2008, I graduated about a semester early. Back then, the legal field was terrible. Jobs were disappearing.
Yeah.
Everybody I went to law school with couldn't get a job. I believe my school reported that 40%, maybe 35% of graduating students had obtained jobs. I was in the night program, and I swear that I think the school manipulated those numbers because I went to school with some CEOs, a couple doctors, tech guys, stuff like that. Was a lot of people on second careers, and a lot of those people went back to their original jobs. So when they got the survey, I think the school said, "Hey, they got a job," but not a lot of people got legal jobs. And then in Colorado, when you go to the University of Denver, like I graduated from, or the University of Colorado, Colorado, because of its skiing and outdoor activities, is just an overall great place to live. Well, our lawyers that graduate here have to compete with lawyers from all over the country. So when I sat for the bar exam, you can imagine there was people from Yale, Harvard, all the major big law schools are coming here, taking the bar. All of our firms seek out those other attorneys. So a lot of competition, this and that. I was a first generation college student. My family doesn't have a college graduate other than me, and certainly not a law school graduate. And so applying to big firms and stuff was sort of a different world for me. And I wasn't getting a lot of looks there. Well, I had volunteered with some law firms. I worked at the ACLU as an intern when I was a paralegal. I worked for the corporate internship at DU, which was actually fairly prestigious. I just didn't like corporate law. So I
Right.
got the internship, and that didn't fit with me. But I was good at rules and regulations, which totally shocked me. I went in thinking I was going to be a criminal attorney. When I was a paralegal, I did bankruptcy, and I actually love bankruptcy and also was a litigator in bankruptcy court for a brief stint of time. But that's sort of agency rules as well, like you follow regulations. So this veterans law really fits what my skill set is. And I totally got off topic, which I apologize for. But the reason
No.
I got into veterans law, having that skill set was because when I started law school, I had just had my second child, or, my wife did. He was a little baby. So I had to utilize the night program, and I had a 3-year-old at the same time.
Hmm.
And so when I was studying for the bar, I, of course, needed money. And there was somebody who I ended up working for a long time that did these federal Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims appeals and said, "Hey, I'm overloaded. Can you write appeals for me?" Because as a law student, I could do that. And so
Hmm.
I started drafting all these appeals. And when I got my law degree, there really wasn't that much available for me, and so he hired me on, and I started doing all this appeal work. Now, like I said, the agency level stuff wasn't really available back then, or it wasn't. A lot of attorneys weren't in that field, so I did get a little nervous because doing only appellate work in DC for veterans is a very niche area.
Yeah.
And every time there's a change in DC, it goes from Republican to Democrat. It doesn't matter which one it is. It's always like, oh, are they going to cut off equal access to Justice Act fees? And is this practice going to disappear? And so you're
Hmm.
always sort of on high alert. And so I went back into the bankruptcy field for about 2 or 3 years. I was an adversary proceeding litigator, some civil stuff. And then I kept getting calls from veterans because I was on some lists,
Right.
and and I got back into the field, and I just prospered in I became head of the military and veterans section in Colorado. I'm on the board of the National Organization of Veterans Advocates now. Um, my university, which I felt like I had to fight to even get them to accept me as a law student, called me up one day and said, "Hey, can you come in and be a professor of veterans law?" I taught there for
Wow.
5 years. We ran a pro bono clinic. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I sort of lucked into it because I can't imagine practicing in a different area of law. Now that I'm 53 and opened up my own practice, I really can't imagine practicing in another area area of
Sounds like you
law.
found your place at the very
Yeah.
least.
And it's great because anytime I'm at a party or something, the lawyer jokes go around. It's like, "Oh, you're a lawyer. What do you do?" And I say, "Oh, I represent disabled veterans." And everybody kind of like, "Oh, that's nice," and and
Yeah, that's
stuff.
great work. Yeah.
so, so it's kind of cool.
Playing
And
well,
yeah, I just
playing
love
well at
it.
parties is a great advantage
Yeah.
there. So let's start from the beginning of your decision. Well, like what made you try out answering legal, and what were some of the issues that your firm was trying to tackle?
So the issues I was trying to tackle at my firm arose the minute I quit my job at the other law firm I worked for. So I sort of found you guys organically, I think, originally. And that was because I got a case management system, which the current one I'm using is my case, and they have integrations. And so there were several other integrations. I believe you were one of them and a couple others. And when I started looking at it, I went through the price points and everything else, and I did investigate and try out a few, but the thing that drew me to answering legal was that you use human beings. I didn't like the AI platforms, even though they were like faking a real person and stuff. And so then I called, and your sales office or whatever, whoever got a hold of me. And honestly, I hit it off, which I'm sorry I'm not remembering his name. It might have even been you, but I don't think so.
No, no,
The
no, me.
owner's son was my salesman, I think, of
Hmm.
answering legal. And we talked about the service and stuff, and I agreed to go in and try it out. It's risk free, which was awesome because I could just use it for a couple months, and I fully intended to do that. And then if I wasn't happy, I could get out of it. But the thing I really appreciated about you all is that I had just started the firm, right? So I can't say that I actually used another service or I had a problem. I got you guys right away. The firm
Hmm.
I came from had a larger staff than I have and could answer calls. We had people that picked up the phone, not 24 hours a day, but during business hours. I didn't have that when I started. And so
Right.
that was important to me. So I knew I needed your service. And then the conversation, I probably was on the phone for 3 hours with the gentleman I talked to,
Hmm.
and some of the difficulties you guys face with advertising and Google clicking and all that stuff. We really walked through a lot of that stuff, and he gave me a lot of good advice that really helped me starting my firm. So I guess I would say it was the personal relationship that I created that initially drew me in. And then
Right.
somewhere along the line, I ended up talking to the owner of your firm who
Hmm.
told me that I should do this podcast where we're at today. And he gave me some additional great advice. And you guys are offering like a lot of great services now with the Spanish speakers and stuff. And that's what I was talking to your owner about. Well, I do have Spanish speaking clients, but they were in the military, so they do know English.
Yeah.
And so when we talked it through, that didn't particularly make sense for my particular area,
Right.
but left the window open for the future or some other things that you all are working on. So I like the flexibility of being able to talk to the actual owners or somebody that directly has their ear, especially if they have a problem. If I need to redo my script, I've been extremely satisfied with that. And I just everybody I've met there so far, including you, I've just really enjoyed.
I feel the same way about my colleagues. Joe, the producer of this podcast, my boss Nick, the salesman. Every time I talk to them, I always come out. It's always a good time. It's a bunch of really great people. I love working here. Um, but what, like you were saying with the Spanish language, the bilingual answering and all of that is part of sort of our mission to make sure that if someone needs legal help, they can get it. And they can get it by calling a law firm that might, be more amenable to what they need than a bigger law firm that has the staff you were talking about to be able to answer the phone after hours. So what has it been like for your firm knowing that whenever, one of your clients, a veteran or their family members reach out, they're always going to be able to talk to a real person?
Um, I think it's been great. And your staff does a pretty good job. And then I have to explain to some of my clients that, so and so they talk to is actually my answering service. 'Cause I say, no, so and so told me this. I said, I know. They're just getting the message over to me. So you're not going to voicemail, and so they're doing a great job because half my clients think they're actually part of my firm.
Hmm.
But I really like the availability of the 24/7. So I can, I legally and put that I'm open 24/7 for the Google, my business searches.
Right.
I don't, not close for the holidays and all that stuff. I think it's been really super helpful the way that we can dis- discern new leads from clients that are existing clients calling in is super valuable. And for whatever reason, especially in this new age of AI and robo calls, I think people just really appreciate having a human being on the phone, even if they're just taking a message.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine if you're struggling with a legal issue, and you're an attorney, so maybe you don't have this anxiety. But if I were to be faced with a legal issue, I would have no idea where to go. And speaking to a voicemail, to an IVR or an AI thing, is not as comforting as talking to a real person when you're anxious and stressed out about whatever legal issue you're going to face. So I can imagine that is a big help to your clients.
Yeah, and the other the other thing that was super valuable to me is that you're located in the United States and it's not a foreign call center.
Hmm.
We pride ourselves, a lot of bigger firms and agent firms and stuff are utilizing overseas talent, like foreign attorneys to work on things.
Hmm.
And, we have access to a lot of veterans' private information when a client sends us a decision. There's things on there that, bad people might like to have access to.
Right.
And so when I started my firm, I'm not using any outside talent. People are going to make a living here. They're going to be, US citizens and everything's going to be contained in our environment. Nothing's going to be floating off to a foreign country ever. And so just the fact that you guys are the same way was super important to me as well.
Is there anything else that stands out as like one of our other features that you've been using a lot?
I downloaded the app for the calls, which to be honest with you, I've been so busy I haven't had a ton of time to use, but I am intrigued on seeing if that can speed up our returning the phone calls better. And
Hmm.
then just having the new clients that call in come into our case management system has been the biggest help.
The integration with my case, you're
The
saying?
integration, yeah, so we can follow up on leads quicker.
Can you tell me a little bit more about like what your experience is using that and how it works like within your firm's workflow?
Yeah, so anybody that wants to search us out on the internet would come in and fill out a contact form, and it gives us some general ideas of what they're looking for in terms of help. Also, because we say that we do veterans law, sometimes if a person's just happens to be a veteran but has a criminal issue or a bankruptcy issue, like, oh, these guys represent veterans, so we can quickly ascertain based on what they say that, oh, this isn't somebody we can help. Maybe we can get them a referral if they're in Colorado or if we know somebody in their state. But it really speeds things up. And so when you all's people take a message, I get an email for it, which also goes to my staff that we have a new lead sitting there. But then it's also in my case management system as a new lead. And then we can work through the case management system of our process of following up with people and try to get to them within a day or two. And so that's just been a big help for getting people in the door.
You know that the integrations were a really highly requested feature, and we're always trying to communicate with other legal software companies to make sure that we can integrate with them. And it's been a lot of work on our end getting those things set up. And you're the first of our customers that I've been able to talk to who has used those. So it does feel good to see
Oh, good.
that those things are helping.
Well,
Because
I'll give you another prop is I'm gonna
yeah.
start using. I know you guys will use Calendly and stuff too, and I did have a conversation with Joe, I think it was, and I pay all this money for Microsoft Suite. And
Hmm.
one thing that really bugs me is 100 different subscriptions and applications that you have to buy. Everybody's like, "Oh, Calendly's so much better." I'm like, "Well, I'm already paying for bookings." So I had told
Hmm.
Joe, "We're going to use bookings," and he said, that you all could make that work too. And we just got the pages set up, so that's the next integration that I'm looking forward to using with you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it sort of helps everyone in the equation where it's easier for a client to get a hold of you because everything is in one place. It's easier for you to communicate with clients, and I imagine, does it save you enough time that you're able to put more time into other things outside of work?
Yeah, I would say that has to be accurate because anything that saves time, creates time. Now, whether I use that time for something other than work, I guess is kind of on me.
Yeah, I mean,
So, yeah.
you're at the end of the day, you're the only one in control of that one.
Yeah, I would like to take some more time off. So I'm going to mountain bike race in Tucson, but I'll probably be checking in quite a bit along the way. So
Well, the app will definitely help you with that.
that will, and that might be the perfect opportunity to get my head around that.
you'll have to let us know what you think when you do get to use the app extensively.
I will for sure.
We were talking earlier about being, based in the United States, and that your clients, when they call, they're always thinking that they're speaking to a receptionist in your office as opposed to an answering service. Do you feel like that has helped your clients getting their legal journey through your firm? Do you think that provides them with a level of like security, like that they understand that their stuff is safe with you?
I haven't had that particular conversation per se with the clients. I definitely get the feeling that that's the case, especially because we can offer them uh, a secure portal where they don't have to email stuff if they prefer not to do that, or explain they can redact their private information as well. So I think it's just the initial talking to a human being
Hmm.
initially makes them feel comfortable, and then the follow up call just sort of naturally um, plays into that, to where this is how it works, sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, so they're not ever leaving a voicemail. They're always talking to somebody, whether
Hmm.
that be you all or my staff or myself.
And you have So could you walk me through what your like call forwarding process is? So you have staff and us, answering legal. Who's answering your phones? Is it just us? Do you have like a sort of combo?
During the day, our phones ring to everybody.
Hmm.
I have a brick and mortar office in Colorado Springs. I'm in the Denver Aurora area. I'm working out of my home office right now. I have a paralegal in Grand Junction, Colorado, and
Hmm.
then we have another paralegal in Longmont, Colorado. And so part of what I do is, my associate attorney, who's a combat medic, just had a baby. And so
Hmm.
I'm trying to offer flexibility where he can work whenever it makes sense, dealing with his two little kids. His wife's a physician. And so during the day, the phones ring to everybody. And so anybody can pick up that call if they have the time and the availability to do it.
Right.
Leave a message for the other team member, whatever the case may be, or even jump on and just answer the question the particular client is calling in on.
Hmm.
Then if that phone rings a certain amount of times, I can't remember, then it bounces over to your firm, and then you guys pick up the message and drop that to us.
That um, I know that feature is really fascinating to me, and I think it like your firm might be one of the best examples of how to use that sort of call forwarding because you have all of these phones ringing all across Colorado, and even through all of that, there's going to be some times where you just can't get to it, and I think that do you find that having that sort of safety net has helped improve your sort of day-to-day life as an attorney?
Yeah, because when the phone rings and I don't have the availability to pick it up, but I see it coming through on my cell phone, I know somebody's gonna grab it. Um, that's a big comfort. And I gotta say, the the VoIP phone systems, we're
Hmm.
currently using Nextiva. You guys helped me set up those call flows because that was really difficult to figure out. I did it myself. We couldn't figure out where the calls were bouncing. And then when I hired you, I said, "Hey, can you guys just take care of this?" So they were able to get in and change the call flow on the Nextiva application, and I super appreciated that.
It's funny, but call forwarding is not easy. It seems simple, you know what I mean? But like these systems are not, and our support team obviously are experts at that because they have to deal with that all day. So I'm glad they were able to help you with that because I wouldn't have been able to do that. I'm not on that end of the project.
Yeah, they're so complicated. The most difficult thing is explaining what you want so the person who knows what they're doing can make
Uh-huh.
the changes. And so uh working with you guys to do that, I had a little bit easier access than with the bigger company next to you. They're like a, giant worldwide company. And so that was a super big help for sure.
What I guess I wanna get back to your legal practice area, right? Veterans appeals. Um, what what do you think is like? Is there a specific how do I put this? There's in certain fields of law, like personal injury, someone had an injury, they're going to call you and they need to talk to someone right now. Criminal defense, they're calling from incarceration or whatever it is. Is there urgency in like a similar urgency in what you deal with, and and how does having 24/7 coverage help with that?
Well, the urgency, now the veterans law landscape had a big change around 2019 into 2020.
Hmm.
Most veterans, when they get something that they need to act on, um, there's not a ton of urgency. They should have about a year deadline. Sometimes that's 120 days in most cases. So
Hmm.
that would really depend on when they choose to call and get help. So if the deadline's tomorrow, very, very urgent. And then, yeah, if they tell that to the person that picks up the phone, I would imagine, and this has happened in the past, it would say they have an urgent matter with a deadline coming up. And
Hmm.
then if it's a new client, or even a current client could say that. And if it's a current client, I would say, oh, okay, we got a little communication error here. I need to let them know we're on top of this deadline,
Right.
put them at ease. Or if it's a current, or not a current client, but a new client calling in, that could either be, oh, maybe we could jump on this, or maybe like, hey, you need to deal with this yourself. There's not enough time for us to ethically get into your case and do our work.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. You don't want to blindly file an appeal for somebody when you don't have all the documents in front of you, which we do get access now. I have a security clearance. My associate attorney and paralegals have security clearance at the Veterans Administration. So once we get all our paperwork filed, the VA is pretty quick to uh, turn on our security clearance, and we can have access to the veterans, all the documents that we need
Hmm.
to do their appeal. That was taking a couple weeks. It's pretty fast now, within about 5 days. Sometimes we can do that depending on the office granting our clearance. So, um, but if somebody calls with a deadline the next day, definitely want to get a hold of them in that situation, but tell them, hey, you might need to at least get this initial part done yourself, or give them whatever advice that doesn't encroach on a legal relationship that we can. We try to get people pointed in the right direction if at all possible.
A friend of mine is a veteran. He did a couple of tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I will say that if he had a problem, he would definitely be one of those guys calling in saying, "Hey, my deadline is 2 weeks from now. Can I
Right,
can I get
right.
some help?"
Two
So
weeks
I
might work. 2 weeks
yeah,
might work. So tell them to call.
yeah. Unfortunately, he's in Kentucky, not in Colorado, but
Oh
uh,
no, we represent people in every state. I'm just
really.
based out of Colorado. Yep, it's a nationwide practice. I don't want to exaggerate. So, several clients in the Kentucky and definitely Cincinnati, Ohio area for
Mhm.
sure.
So if he runs into any problems, I'll make sure to throw him your way.
All right, I appreciate that.
We're running here up against the last of our questions here. Do you have any final thoughts you might want to share with a lawyer who's considering giving answering legal a try?
Yeah, I would say if you're considering giving it a try, from the other companies I saw, it's kind of a no risk instead of like a 7-day trial period. Um, which I don't think you would really be able to ascertain whether you want to get into a, subscription with somebody for seven
Hmm.
days and then make that decision. As you can sign up with your service, Answering Legal, and use it for a month or 3 months, and then you really and get out of your contract if you want to. So it's like a trial period, but better. Um, and then you'll be really able to see if the calls coming in are matching your needs on the ground. So I would recommend starting with the all service before going anywhere else.
Thanks for the kind words.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us on this podcast. That's all the time we have for this episode of Inside Answering Legal. Again, I'd like to thank Timothy R. Franklin for joining us on the show today. If you want to learn more about our company, we encourage you to visit www.answeringlegal.com. And of course, stay tuned to future episodes of this podcast. All episodes of Inside Answering Legal can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel. We'll see you next time, everyone.